Hi, I'm Karen. We're here at Montavilla Sewing Center, and today we're talking about the Baby Lock Presto 2. In this video, I'm going to show you the accessories that come with your machine. So to start off with, we have your instructional guide and your quick reference guide, and both of these are going to be important to read through. They give you lots of good information as well as some charts for stitches and what they're good for. So you also have a dust cover that comes with your machine, and of course your cords, your foot control, and your power cord. Now to store your accessories, you have this nice compartment here, and there's this tray that you can put your feet in. It's labeled for you right here. You can put that right down in there. And there's room underneath. You can put accessories as well as on the side. And there's also a back compartment right here for your lesser used accessories. Now over here are the accessories that come with your machine. Your J foot is on your machine already. The N foot, which is this one right here, is for doing fancy stitches where you're putting a lot of thread into your fabric. There's a channel right here which helps the thread to flow right through as you go. Then this is your G foot. Now the G foot is great for doing overcasting on thin fabric, and this is an example here. I use the G foot to make a nice flat overcast edge on this quilting cotton, and that's using this stitch over here, number 9, on your quick select stitches. Then you have your zipper foot. Now, zipper foot is for putting in zippers. You can also use this for putting in that thin piping, because you can sew right next to the piping. When you use this, you can put the foot on either on the right side or on the left side, and I'll show you what that's like. So it's a quick release foot, quick change foot. Here we have it on the left side, like that, and on the right side, like this. Now notice right away, I'm going to lower the needle, and you can see the needle is going to hit the foot. So with this foot, make sure you're using stitch number 3. The center needle position. Now the needle has some place to go on both sides of the foot. Put that over there. I love it how these can be changed so quickly and easily. You sit right. Usually I'm sitting right in front of the machine. And then we have the blind hem foot. Now the blind hem foot is for doing blind hems, just like it says. This is an example of a blind hem. You can hardly see the stitches at all on the outside, and the stitching is done on the inside using the blind hem foot, and the book is going to talk to you about that, how that works. This is your button fitting foot. Now what this does, if you look up here, there's a specific stitch that you would use for sewing buttons on. The kind of buttons would be these kind of buttons that have holes that go all the way through, either the 4-hole or the 2-hole. You put the button right in here like this, line it up, lower your needle a little bit with your hand wheel just to make sure that it's going cleanly through the holes in the button, and then you can widen or narrow your zigzag to make sure that it sews it on just right. It's also got this really neat feature, this little piece that you can slide forward. It gives you a little bit of extra room between the button and the fabric, a little bit of slack in the thread, and that makes a shank for your button, for your flat buttons like these. Then we've got the buttonhole foot. Now this, you would put your button right in here, and that's going to determine this length, which is going to determine how long your buttonhole is. You can still make your buttonhole stitch denser using your stitch length knob, or stitch length control. Okay. Then you have your needle set, and this has got various different needles. The book is going to talk about what these needles are for. Eventually, you're going to need to replace needles. Make sure you get a good quality needle like Schmetz or Classe. Those are good quality needles. Then you have your twin needle. Now I took it out of the package so you can see what it looks like. The twin needle is good for sewing this kind of thing, where you've got 2 spools of thread that you put on the top of your machine. You've got just your single bobbin thread on the back, and you can get some beautiful effects like this using your twin needle. Now, needles do wear out, so if you do a lot of sewing with your twin needle, make sure that you get one that's the same distance between the needles, because there are needles that you can get that are wider. You want to have this one here. Your machine is calibrated. This button right over here, when you push that, it shows twin needles. So if you're using that, this machine is calibrated for this width of needle, this width of space between the needles. Then you have 4 bobbins that come with your machine. 1 is already in your machine, and you get 3 more. Now these are Baby Lock bobbins. They're similar to the standard class 15 bobbins, but they're a little bit different on the inside. So when you get replacement bobbins or additional bobbins, I like to have a whole lot of bobbins already wound in the various colors of thread that I use. Get the Baby Lock bobbins. That's what you want to get. Then you have your seam ripper. Now your seam ripper is great for unpicking seams, of course, but it's also good for opening buttonholes. Now when you use your seam ripper, the handle, the lid, put that on the handle like that, and that's going to keep it from rolling away. And then when you're done using it, put the cover right back on. Then you have your cleaning brush. Now I have another video on how to take care of your machine. This is the brush that you would use to clean the lint out from around your feed dogs and in the bobbin area. This is a nice little tool. This is a hole punch. This would be used for punching out the hole in the center of your eyelet. You have an eyelet stitch on your machine. Also for your keyhole buttonholes, this is what you would use. Now this is fairly sharp, so make sure that you have like a block of wood that you have on the other side of your fabric. Don't just do it directly on your table, because it will leave marks on the table. And then this little hole right here that you see right there, that's kind of the clean out. So when you have punched a lot of holes in things, there's a little bit of material that kind of builds up inside, so you can clean it out right there. It just comes out right there. It has somewhere to go. All right, and then you have 3 different screwdrivers. You have this one here that has wings on it. You have this one here that's L-shaped that you would use sort of at an angle. It gives you a little more torque that way. And then you have this nice short donut-shaped screwdriver. All 3 of these screwdrivers are a little bit wider than your standard screwdriver to account for the wider width on each of these screws, on the ones on the needle plate, the one on the presser bar, the foot holder, and the one on the needle bar. They're Baby Lock screwdrivers. Then we have the spool pin. This is an auxiliary spool pin. So remember I talked about using your twin needle to do wonderful stitches like this. You'd put that right up here like this on the bobbin winder, and you can point this towards the pathway for the threading, so you can have a thread here, and get your twin needle sewing. If you have it this way, make sure that you use an additional spool pin. That's why they give you 2 of these size of spool caps, so you do want to have that there. Now speaking of spool caps, the small spool cap goes whenever you have a small spool, small diameter of spool. Then you have the bigger one. This is for your big diameter of spools right there. Now what about this one here? So let's take that off for now. For this one's meant for the type of spools like this that are just on a tube and they don't have an end cap on them. So you put that on like this, and then this little guy right here goes up here. And that holds that spool on there, and it'll keep it from sliding off your spool pin. Okay. Now, sometimes you're using a thread that's kind of springy. It's a decorative thread. This is a spool net to go around those kind of spools of thread. And you'd put that on kind of the bottom of the spool. And the way I like to explain the use of these is often people who knit will have a ball of yarn and they'll have a net around that ball of yarn to keep the yarn from kind of coming off the ball of yarn. That's kind of the same idea as using one of these spool nets. There's also other accessories you can get. One accessory I really like is the cloth guide. That's an additional accessory, but it will help you make a nice seam allowance. If you're using a particular type of seam allowance, this can screw right onto your machine on the needle plate. And then if you do a lot of quilting, I would really recommend getting this one. I love to quilt piecing. Looks like this. If you do a lot of this sort of thing, you would need to have 1/4-inch seam allowances. And this is the foot I really like using for that. It has a guide right here on the side, and when you put it in, one of your quilting stitches up here, I think it's 25, you run the edge of your fabric right along that guide, and it's going to give you a perfect 1/4-inch seam allowance. This is a really nice extra one that you can get. So that's your accessories for your Baby Lock Presto 2. There are other accessories that you can get, but I showed you the ones that come with your machine. There's a lot you can do with this machine. I hope you found this video to be helpful. If you have, give us a thumbs up. And if you have comments or questions, you can put those in the area down below. We have lots of other videos you can watch, so stay tuned. Thanks for watching. Bye.